Here's the fourth and final Oathbreaker deck I own, with the Oathbreaker being Ral, Storm Conduit. 2 of any, 1 blue, 1 red, for a legendary planeswalker, Ral. He enters with 4 loyalty, and whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, he deals 1 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. He has a +2 to Scry 1, and he has a -2. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell, you may choose new targets for the copy. And he is paired with the signature spell, Expansion Explosion. You're most likely going to cast Expansion, simply because a few cards in here we use to combo, where we make multiple copies of Expansion, and then we have it copy itself infinitely, dealing infinite damage with Ral's passive ability. Now first off, let's go through those few cards. First, we have Thousand Year Storm. 4 of any, 1 blue, 1 red for an enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it for each other instant or sorcery spell you've cast before it this turn. You may choose new targets for the copies. So, example, you play this turn 6, have Ral already on the field, then turn 7, you play an opt. After you opt, in response, you expansion, copy the opt. Thousand Year Storm creates 1 copy of expansion because you've cast 1 instant before it, then that copy, you copy the original expansion. It becomes a copy, it copies it. Infinite damage. Similar effect with the card Repeated Reverberation. 2 red, 2 of any for an instant. When you cast an instant or sorcery spell, or activate a loyalty ability this turn, or it's when you next do any of those effects, copy that spell or ability twice. So let's say you play this, play an opt, play an expansion. You create 2 copies of expansion, same thing, but now you have 3 copies. So if your opponent has a counter spell, they have to counter 2 of those in order to actually stop the effect. Then we get into our creature package. This deck is very instant and sorcery focused, but you do need some creatures to help you buffer or win the game. So first off, we'll go through the ones that give us damage effects, which are Thermo Alchemist, 1 of any, 1 red, for a 0/3 with Defender, creature, human, shaman. You can tap it and deal 1 damage to each opponent. Then when you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you can untap Thermo Alchemist. Then, Electrostatic Field. 1 red, 1 of any, for a creature, wall, 0/4 Defender. When you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Then we have our token-making creatures with Young Pyromancer. 1 red, 1 of any, for a 2/1 creature, human, shaman. When you cast an instant or sorcery, you make a red 1/1 elemental creature token. Then we have Murmuring Mystic. 3 of any, and a blue, for a 1/5 creature, human, wizard. When you cast an instant or sorcery, make a 1/1 blue bird illusion creature token with flying. Then we have Runaway Steamkin. This is good ramp. 1 of any, 1 red, for a creature elemental, 1/1. When you cast a red spell, if Runaway Steamkin has fewer than 3 +1/+1 counters on it, put a +1/+1 counter on Runaway Steamkin. You can remove 3 +1/+1 counters from Runaway Steamkin to add 3 red mana to your mana pool. Then we have Augur of Bolas. 1 of any, 1 blue, for a creature, merfolk wizard, 1/3. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal an instant or sorcery card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library, in any order. Then we have Flux Channeler. 2 of any and 1 blue for a 2/2 creature, human, wizard. When you cast a non-creature spell, proliferate. With the amount of planeswalkers in this deck, which there are 4 of, one of them being the Oathbreaker, you're going to be proliferating up those counters fairly often. Plus, also, you can proliferate Steamkin's counters as well to ramp up faster or more efficiently. Then we have Goblin Electromancer. 1 blue, 1 red for a creature, Goblin Wizard. He's a 2/2, and instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 colorless less to cast. Then we have our 2 big buff creatures. Enigma Drake. 1 of any, 1 blue, 1 red for a star 4 flying creature Drake. Its power is equal to the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard. Then we have its better version, Crackling Drake. 2 blue, 2 red for a star 4 creature Drake of flying. Its power is equal to the number of instant and sorcery cards you own in exile and in your graveyard. And when it enters, you draw a card. Then we go on to our spells. Or first, actually, we will cover the Planeswalkers. First off, Narset, Parter of Veils. 1 of any, 2 blue, legendary Planeswalker, Narset. Each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. -2, look the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Then we have Saheeli, Sublime Artificer. She's a legendary Planeswalker, Saheeli. She enters with 5 loyalty. When you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 servo artifact creature token. -2, target artifact you control becomes a copy of another target artifact or creature you control until end of turn, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. Then finally we have Rao, Izzet Viceroy. 3 of any, a blue, and a red for a legendary Planeswalker, Rao. +1, he enters with 5 loyalty, then +1, look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put 1 of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. -3, he deals damage to target creature equal to the number of instant sorcery cards you own in exile and in your graveyard. -8, which, if you get this -8, you win the game basically, because you get an emblem with, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, this emblem deals 4 damage to any target, and you draw 2 cards. Then we'll move on to our very small counterspell package. First, Dispel. 1 blue for an instant, counter target instant spell. Then we have Ionize. 1 of any, 1 blue, and 1 red for an instant. Counter target spell. Ionize deals 2 damage to that spell's controller. Then we finally have Counterflux. 2 blue, 1 of any for an instant. Counter target spell you don't control, and it can't be countered by spells or abilities. Then it has Overload by adding 1 blue, the overload cost is 2 blue, 1 red, 1 of any. You may cast this spell for its overload cost. If you do, change its text by replacing all instances of target with each. So basically, by paying 4 mana, you get a counter all spells you don't control that are on the stack. And it can't be countered by spells or abilities. Then we have our damage package and removal. Shock. 1 red for an instant. It deals 2 damage to any target. Then this is a placeholder for Lightning Bolt, but Lightning Strike. 1 of any, 1 red instant deals 3 damage to any target. Lava Dart. 1 red instant deals 1 damage to any target, and has flashback to sacrifice a mountain. This is good so that you can set up certain ways, or if you just need that extra cast, you can sacrifice a mountain, which there are a lot of mountains in this deck. Then finally, for burn spells, we have Skewer the Critics. It's 2 of any, and 1 red for sorcery, deals 3 damage to any target, but you can Spectacle for 1 red. So you may cast it for the Spectacle cost of 1 red if an opponent has lost life this turn. Then we have Chaos Warp. 2 of any, 1 red for an instant. The owner of target permanent shuffles it into his or her library, then reveals the top card of his or her library. If it's a permanent card, he or she puts it onto the battlefield. Basic red removal, it's pretty good. Then we have our card draw package, or basically the rest of the spells in the deck. First, Portent. 1 blue for sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards of target player's library, then put them back in any order you may have that player shuffle their library. Draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. Anticipate. 1 of any, 1 blue for an instant. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Sleight of hand. 1 blue, sorcery. Look at the top 2 cards of your library, put 1 of them into your hand and the other on the bottom of your library. Steam Augury. 2 of any, 1 blue, 1 red. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library and separate them into 2 piles. An opponent chooses one of those piles. Put that pile into your hand and the other into your graveyard. Faithless Looting. 1 red for sorcery. Draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. And it has a flashback of 2 and a red, so you can cast it from your graveyard for its flashback cost, then exile it. Opt. Instant. 1 blue. Scry 1, draw a card. Brainstorm. I shouldn't have to explain this, everyone knows what Brainstorm does, but I'll do it anyways. 1 blue. Instant. Draw 3 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. Contentious Plan. 1 of any and a blue. Sorcery. Proliferate. Draw a card. Another proliferation effect. Quite good, plus it draws you a card. Renegade Tactics. 1 red. Sorcery. Target creature can't block this turn, but you draw a card. So it's good to just draw that card and cast that spell, or if you need to attack and they have a blocker, you can make it so that it can't block. Ponder. 1 blue. Sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Then put them back in any order. You may shuffle your library. Draw a card. Frantic Search. 2 of any and a blue for an instant. Draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. Untap up to 3 lands. Then light up the stage. 2 of any and a red for sorcery. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. And as a spectacle for 1 red. Then for lands we have Izzet Guildgate, Spire Bluff Canal, Interplanar Beacon, Sulphur Falls, Cryptic Caves, Temple of Epiphany, Command Tower, Highland Lake, Izzet Boiler Works, Shivon Reef, Mystic Sanctuary, Swift Water Cliffs. Then you have 3 mountains. Yeah, 3 mountains. And then 4 mountains. I'm stupid. So 4 mountains and then 7 islands. Now, as you can probably tell, I've never done video deck text before, so this kinda sucked. But hopefully you can understand what each of these decks want to do. And hopefully you have somewhat of an understanding of Oathbreaker as a format, and I hope you take interest in it. I will talk to you all at some point again.